iSee109 right now.
All right, guys. I guess you can find anything if you go looking for it. Because I just made a video, excuse me, in which I explained that it was March 31st, 2017, when I made my first trip to Ethiopia. Now that date's important because Ethiopia was a part of the Aksumite Empire, and the point I want to make is that Nipsey Hussle was a descendant of the Aksumite Empire by way of his father, who is from Eritrea. Ethiopia and Eritrea were once a part of the Aksumite Empire, right? The empire covered Ethiopia and Eritrea. That's what I want to say. So the first time I went to Ethiopia was March 31st, 2017. 2 years later to the day, excuse me, Nipsey Hussle was killed, March 31st, 2019. So it's like when I came into the knowledge of, you know, this biblical, like, no, when I came into the knowledge of the Bible from an Ethiopian perspective, like, my world changed completely, right? I'm sure that's what happens to any of us as Christians, as Muslims, as Jews. When we learn of the importance of Ethiopia, like the whole game changes. Okay, and that was my coming of age, so to speak. The same day, March 31st, 2017, I went to Ethiopia for the first time. I arrived in Ethiopia for the first time. March 31st, 2019, Nipsey Hussle was killed. So what? Nipsey Hussle was this very important person who I think just captivated so many, minds and imaginations of so many black males, especially, right? He did everything. He touched every goal that any black male could set, for him or herself, black American or just African, period, black African. There's a lot baked into that statement and there's a lot to unpack there, but yeah, Nipsey did it all. And it's a miracle. It really is a miracle. But he was able to do that based upon his belief in himself. Um, and that part, yeah, that's a miracle. Now, today, the date of this recording is March 27th, and on March 31st of this week, which is a Friday, that's the day that Jean-Michel Basquiat will the exhibit will open right here in Los Angeles. It's the King Pleasure exhibit, put on by the estate of Jean-Michel Basquiat, curated, spearheaded by his sisters, Lysane Basquiat, his one sister, whose name I remember. I think she's spearheading the exhibit. Anyway, it's a great exhibit, and I saw it in New York. I'm gonna now see it in L.A. Inshallah, God willing, I will see it this Friday, March 31st. Thing about March is after Nipsey's murder, I had this keen sense of the month of March. Like, yeah, I thought about it. In 2019, so many like terrible things happened. For one, in 2019, Ethiopian Airlines airplane crashed, flight 302, I believe. Ralph Nader's granddaughter was on that flight. She lost her life. That occurred March 10th, and then so that was an event that focused my attention on East Africa in particular. And then on March 1st, there were celebrations surrounding the victory of Ethiopia over Italy in the Battle of Adwa. The victory occurred in 1896. So there was another event that really focused my attention on East Africa in the month of March. And so my feelings in March of 2019, I went from, being elated and, celebratory to mournful when the airlines crashed. But then to add to the sadness of the month of March, Nipsey Hussle was murdered at the end of the month in 2019. So I've always had this since 2019, I've been keenly aware of the month and sort of very cautious of 2019. And then, yes, in March of 2020, we got COVID. COVID started, and that was another one of those things, sort of like beware the month of March. And then the following year, I believe it was 2021, when I lost my cousin. My cousin was killed. Like we had gotten through much of the month of March in 2021, and then the last night on before the last day of the month, my cousin was killed, and it was like, wow, I couldn't get out the month of March without any disaster, and that's what happened. 2022. Um, in 2022, things were, I think I was sort of coming away from the sort of sadness of the month of March, but I also lost my grandfather. I believe it was in April, the following you know, March, or excuse me, the following year. So 2022, I believe it was April when my grandfather. So during the month of March, my grandfather was ailing, and then April arrived and we lost him. So that was once again March, dun dun dun, March. So we have 4 more days in the month of March. God willing, everything will be all right. Um, I'm looking forward to Basquiat's show. That's a highlight. That's something to look forward to. But I'm certainly, I'm cautiously optimistic, waiting for March to end. Anyhow, so these are the things that I wanted to call your attention to. Um, but also, if you look for anything, you're gonna find it, right? So I'm noticing all of these connections between the Aksumite Empire of the Queen of Sheba, which was in Ethiopia and spanned Eritrea, crossed the Red Sea to into Yemen and southern Saudi Arabia. That was all part of the Aksumite Empire, led by Queen of Sheba. Um, the thing about Aksum, and the idea that if you just go looking for it, you're going to find it, is that in Aksum, they have these stelae, or these what we also call obelisks. All right. And there's a large obelisk still standing, or it actually stands now in Ethiopia, in the city of Aksum, the city named after the Aksumite Empire, okay, where Queen of Sheba ruled. All right, I was there. She had the ruins, the remains of her like palace. I walked on those grounds, right? In the city of Aksum. Okay, they have an obelisk there that is 108 feet tall. There's a correlation between the heavens and our bodies. The Indian or the Hindu tradition has brought forth this idea that 108 is a sacred number because the number is important in the heavens or in space as well as within the human body. 108, there it is again. The human body, you will breathe 108 times 100. So you will breathe 10,800 times during the day, and you will breathe 10,800 times at night. Okay, now this is not an absolute. But if you are a healthy human being, you will approximately breathe that many times during the day and that many times during the night. All right. So that number 108 is as above, so below. So in the heavens, 108 is important in between, as a number between the earth and the sun, the distance. And the same thing with earth and the moon. 108 is there too. So in the heavens, 108 is important. And on earth, 108 is important because 108 is within the body. All right. So I mentioned that at Oxum, they have a stele or an obelisk that is 108 feet tall. Well, if you go to Guatemala, you have Tikal. There are a number of temples, and at Tikal, one of the temples, or the pyramids rather, one of the pyramids is 108 feet tall. These aren't coincidences. This is not a mistake, okay? What happens in the heavens happens on earth. So, think about that. Much of humanity, much of early humans spent their time gazing at the hopefully not the sun, but studying the sun, gazing at the moon and the stars, right? And so when you come up with these calculations, which we know ancient people did, think of the Dogon people who knew of the existence of Sirius, the Sirius B star, the dog star, well before scientists knew this. Think about the the Mayan calendar. Think about, I mean, everything. Think about, what is it? Not Tenochtitlan, but Teotihuacan. Man, I messed those names up. In Mexico, there's that city. The city is so well laid out. It looks like a computer board with the sun and the moon pyramid. Teotihuacan, Tenochtitlan. I forgot. Um, yeah, this is some wild stuff. So 108 recurs. In India, there are 108 temples, 108 different locations that are deemed highly spiritual, centers, temples. 108 in number. If you go to Tibet, the Tibetan scrolls, there are 108 Tibetan scrolls. This is not a coincidence. 108 is that number. Even the great pyramids of Giza, I read this. Apparently, the base of the pyramids are like 108. Okay, don't quote me on that. Do some research. I found the information online. Uh, but 108 is that number is baked into the construction of the pyramids. So it's just recurring. Now, why did I mention Nipsey Hussle? Why did I mention Oxum and all of this? All right. Because, I went looking for 108 and I found it related to Nipsey, right? And so 108 being a highly sacred and spiritual number, you know, plays, is right in line with this idea that Nipsey's name, or his real name, Ermias, translated to God will rise. And so that is such I don't know, a messianic, name that it suggests that Nipsey could only do great things in his life. You know how people believe that the name that you are given or granted gives you the power, or power of destiny, I guess. So he had messianic spirit, a messianic energy, which he lived out. He expressed, he demonstrated all of that. Now here's the thing about Nipsey. Here's the connection with him. He rode the 108 bus in Los Angeles here down Slauson. There's the 108 bus that Nipsey had to ride in order to get to his music lessons in the city of Watts, California. And another 108 reference or connection or coincidence is that the Watts Tower is where Nipsey learned music production, it's one block away from 108th Street in Watts. All kind of crazy coincidences going on there. But yeah. So these are just some things that I noticed, some things that I discovered. And my channel is called iSee109, iSee109.
You're at 109 right now.
But the thing about it is the reason why it's called 109 is because 109, the number 109 represents a guru, a teacher. And so I'm sharing this information with you, as a teacher. So do with it what you will. I just wanted to call your attention to this. And with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings. And I'm out.